Hey, everybody. I'm going to try and keep it extremely short and pithy tonight. An important night tonight. We just published a very important article that I frankly should have published years ago. It's very simple. I'm going to take you through it now. The point of the article, in fact, the title of the article is why Joe Biden's student loan cancellation will cost taxpayers nothing, zero. Not a thing, not one thin dime. And I may just kind of read it to you as we go along. Let me do a quick screen share. This is not complicated stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And think about it this way. I'm going to give you sort of the kindergarten version first. Imagine you lend your friend $100 and he promises to repay you $200. So he pays you back, he pays you back $100, he pays you back another $50, so he pays you back $150, and then he skips town, he disappears. So ask yourself this question. Did that loan just cost you $50 because he didn't pay you back the $200 that you were expecting? Did you lose $50 on that lending transaction? Hopefully your answer is no. Hopefully you would say, well, I didn't make as much as I wanted, but yeah, I made $50 on the loan. So I actually made money. This is true for student loans. Now, you wouldn't think that, seeing the mainstream media as they bandy about Biden's student loan cancellation. I think probably 95 out of 100 articles that I've seen on this, if not more, are talking about how much the Biden student loan cancellation is going to cost taxpayers. And I am here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it will actually cost the taxpayers nothing, not one thin dime. The taxpayers have been repaid. They've been repaid every nickel that they've put out for these federal student loans, nearly. And so, quite frankly, all federally owned student loans, not $10,000, not $20,000, not this relatively inconsequential amount that Biden is proposing, not that, but in fact, 100% of all federally owned student loans, like $1.5 or so trillion, could be canceled tomorrow. And on balance, the taxpayers have made back every penny they lent out. You can't say that about PPP loans. You can't say that about almost any other governmental loan program that I can think of. But let me just take you through this very quickly so you understand the ins and outs of it. The mainstream media is against us, guys. It is by and large captured, hook, line, and sinker. It is caught in the web of our opponents, the people who are making money off of this lending scam. And it is a scam. The media has been completely turned. They've been captured by our opponents who want to keep this loan scam, and it is a scam, going. So I'm going to do a quick screen share here and just take you through this article that I just published so that you can see it for yourself. So as I said, over the past 2 years, certainly since we on this group began demanding that not $10,000, but since we began demanding that all federally owned student loans be canceled, a tidal wave, an avalanche of adversarial media has been launched and lodged against us. That whole concept started with this group, so by the way. So I take this somewhat personally. It was our seminal interview in Vice News, August 2019, that started the whole ball rolling about student loan cancellation by executive order. And it was our petition that we started many, many, many months and months and months before anybody was talking about canceling student loans by executive order. It was our petition that got that whole public conversation going. So yeah, over the past 2 years or longer now, we've seen an avalanche of oppositional media, the people in Washington, D.C., and they're claiming that even Biden's $10,000 loan cancellation, right? which my best estimate is that even if $10,000 was written off for all student loan borrowers, all 42 million borrowers, it would be a cancellation of roughly $420 billion in debt. But our opposition says, no, it's going to cost $1 trillion or more. And remember, Biden's loan cancellation is, first of all, it doesn't do almost anything for the worst hurt people, but it's means tested. So people, probably 15 or so percent, 10 or 15% of the borrowers won't even get it because they earn too much. But anyways, so we've seen this massive tidal wave about, these people with their hair on fire say, oh, the world's going to end. And, it's going to be this massive cost, $1 trillion for Biden's loan cancellation. Complete nonsense. Some even claim that this will result in a tax $2,500 to the average taxpayer. So here's the bill, Mr. Taxpayer. You need to cough up $2,500 to pay for this Biden student loan cancellation. Complete, absolute rubbish. And here's why. Several decades of both Department of Education and White House budget data show that federally owned, we're not talking about the guaranteed student loans, the old style loans, we're only talking about federally owned student loans. Unlike all other federally owned or guaranteed loan programs, have been so massively profitable over many decades that all federally owned student loans could be canceled by executive order entirely, not just $10,000 per borrower, at little or no actual cost to the taxpayers. So first of all, borrower payments to the Department of Education right before COVID hit, people were repaying about $85 billion a year in their student loan payments, giving that money to the Department of Education. And even our most vociferous critics, like Mark Goldwine at the Center for a Responsible Federal Budget, he's acknowledged this fact. In fact, he put it out there. So the government is getting back $85 billion a year on this lending program. At the same time, the government has been lending out roughly $95 billion per year. And this has been true roughly over the past decade since the lending program was federalized by Obama 12 years ago. So that is the cash flow that the Department of Education has been realizing since roughly over the past 10 years or maybe a little longer. So if you're putting out $95 billion, you're getting back $85 billion, that should be $10 billion per year that you're actually sort of losing, right? So over 10 years, you would expect that the loan balance, the loan portfolio would grow by, all else being equal, roughly $100 billion a year. Well, no. Over the past 10 years, the federal student loan balance has grown by over $1 trillion over certainly since 2009, 2010. So obviously something's going on here. What should be roughly a break-even program, interest of something like $100 billion per year is being added. That's profit, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, in 1965, when the federal student loan program was rolled out, President Lyndon Baines Johnson declared that the loans would be free of interest, right? So given these cash flows, it is clear that the actual unrecouped monies that the government has seen has been very small, perhaps only, as I said, $100 billion over the past decade. The explosive growth in the size of the portfolio, however, is obvious and clear evidence that the government is making a profit on these loans. They are booking massive amounts of profit on the lending system. But it gets even worse, guys. Decades, like 2-3 decades worth of White House budget data show that unlike all other loans in the United States, including government made, if not the world, The Department of Education has found a way to make a profit, not a loss, on defaulted student loans. That's a very important point. Nobody is reporting this. Nobody in the mainstream media. You heard this here first, but it's true. And in fact, this was true going back to 2004 and before. And eager listeners can very easily go to the White House budget and look at this article. You can click the links and find it for yourself, and very easily confirm that indeed the government is posting profits on collections on defaulted loans. That's something that no other borrower can claim. That's frankly, it's one of the cruelest and most damning characteristics of this particular lending system. When you're making a profit on defaulted loans, something has gone horribly wrong. We're talking about predatory lending. So a credit card company, for example, they're thrilled if they get back 10 cents on the dollar on a defaulted loan. Well, the federal government not only gets back $1.05 on the dollar on a defaulted account, that defaulted loan already included massive amounts of profit in the first place. So the federal government is making a far, far, far more profit today on defaulted student loans than it ever was before the lending program was federalized under Obama. It's a key point, ladies and gentlemen. Furthermore, and hopefully you can see my screen here. Furthermore, even before the program was, the lending program was federalized, even before, going back to 2004, the CEO of Sallie Mae was bragging about how they send money to the Treasury every year rather than the other way around. So the federal government was making a profit on defaulted student loans certainly since 2004 and even before. I actually haven't looked at White House budget data prior to 2004, but I have looked at White House budget data since 2004, including most recently, I think 2022. And indeed, the government was booking a profit on defaulted loans. But as I said, because the newer loans contain so much more profit built into the loan at the time that it defaults, the actual profitability of defaulted loans today is far, far, far greater for the government than it ever was before. Our opponents like to say that the federal lending program is a cost to the taxpayers generally. And this is just absolutely wrong. And they point to reports from places like the GAO or the Congressional Budget Office. And these reports are playing a trick on us and gentlemen. They attribute huge costs to the taxpayer through of these programs by, well, largely two things. Defaulted loans. They claim that that's a cost. It's not. It's a profit center. And they also claim costs that are going to happen because all of these loans are going to be, so many loans are going to be canceled through the various income-driven repayment programs. So IDR, so pay as you earn, revised pay as you earn, income-based repayment, income contingent repayment, and sort of an offshoot of that is the public service loan forgiveness program. Well, again, that's completely wrong. Almost none of these loans are being canceled, ladies and gentlemen. The success rate for these income-driven repayment plans is like less than 1%. It's less than 1% for the income contingent repayment. It's, I think, around 2-point-something% for public service. And that's only because of a huge brouhaha lately. But, we're talking about 98% or more of the borrowers not getting their loans canceled through the income-driven repayment plans that they had every hope would work for them. Not only are they not working for them, the people who are kicked out of these programs, they are typically left owing far, far, far more than had they never even tried in the first place. So, and this is one of the most cruel, vicious ironies about the whole student loan program generally, the federal program. These income-driven repayment programs, these loan cancellation promises, not only are they not costing the government money, the government is actually booking far more profit than if these programs never existed, because of what I said, because of all the people who've fallen out of the running for these programs. They don't verify their income, they don't dot their I and cross their T on their application. Any number of ways that the Department of Education, which has no true intention or desire of canceling any loans, the Department of Education, good people. But the Department of Education has all sorts of tricks and traps, administrative cruelties that they use to not cancel loans. So I hope that you understand the gravity of what I'm telling you about this lending program. It is vicious, it is predatory, and it is profitable. No other lending program, no other lending system, whether it's private or governmental, that we've ever seen in this country. It's a vicious, it's a con, it's a scam. There's no better word for it, guys. The Founding Fathers called for uniform bankruptcy rights in the Constitution. These have been uniquely stripped from student loans. These loans have been weaponized by the federal government against the citizens, including you. So just to say that in a lending environment where defaults are actually profitable and almost no loans are being canceled, and the government makes all the interest from the loans, it is literally impossible to lose money on the loans. In fact, the program can only be making money from the program, and a lot of it. All of this profit for loans that President LBJ said, what did I just say? He said, we can make these loans free of interest. Well, what happened, LBJ? And here's just a quick illustration that shows the first 2 years in office for President Biden. These are the loans that he canceled. I think it's roughly $13 billion. Now, in a typical year, as I said, about $100 billion is added tax in interest. So all the loan cancellation that we've seen to date has been compared to the amount of profit added onto our backs at our expense by the federal government. So let's be blunt. I think I've been blunt tonight. That's okay. Let's be blunt. This predatory student loan system has been a cash cow for the taxpayer. Actually, we're talking about the Department of Education and the Treasury Department, and a huge number of private for-profit servicers, NGOs, other contractors that have got their hands in this Washington D.C. cash cow. All the other players in Washington that are milking this tit, and we are the cow. Make no mistake. Biden's pitiful, and it is pitiful, $10,000 cancellation, I would say it's a gimmick, claims that this will cost the taxpayers. They are using fantastical accounting tricks. And I hope that you understand why I said that's true. The vast majority of the portfolio's profit, $10,000 is nothing. It's profit, it's monopoly. And this is the kind of thing that we saw Enron executives do. These are the same sort of accounting gimmicks that we literally saw Enron executives do a couple decades ago. I don't know if you remember the Enron story. If you're of a certain age, it was an energy company in Texas. And what they would do was they would massively overvalue their company. And they would do this by pointing to a barge, for example, that they own, a barge in Africa sitting on a river. How much did the barge actually cost? I don't know, maybe $100,000. How much do barges cost? I don't know. Not much. And they would say, oh, one day this barge will produce a million, billions of, hundreds of millions of gallons of oil energy. So the actual value of these barges that are sitting in a swamp in Africa It's actually like $5 billion. And they would count that as an asset on their books. Well, so too. That's kind of, in fact, that's almost exactly analogous to what our opposition is doing with the federal student loan portfolio. They're looking at a portfolio, and make no mistake, guys, these loans will not be paid on by and large going forward. Even before the pandemic, 60%, nearly 60%, that's getting close to 2/3 of all borrowers had stopped making payments on their loans. So while the value of the portfolio is $1.6 trillion or whatever, that's garbage. It's garbage paper. It's not going to happen. People will not. Now, in the past, it's true. People were paying $85 billion a year. But ladies and gentlemen, past performance is absolutely no guarantee of future results. I think that's the first lesson they teach you as an investor. And you see that disclaimer all over these late night television shows telling you how you can get rich quick on gold or real estate or cryptocurrency or whatever. No. It's true that the student loan scam was extracting huge sums of money from the citizenry. But I'm telling you that as of fourth quarter 2020, nearly 2/3 of the borrowers had stopped paying. And it's been 3 years now since people have been paying on their student loans. People have moved on. Not to mention, inflation has wrecked them. And inflation is costing them far more than they were ever saving by not having to make their student loan payments. Moreover, I think, I could be wrong, but it kind of looks like we're headed into a recession, guys. So they're supposed to turn these loans back on September 1st. And I'm here to tell you, not only will 60% of the people not resume making payments, I think that's going to go up by a lot. Probably closer to 80, 85%. Who knows? Maybe even 90% of the people won't resume paying on their loans. That's pretty realistic, actually. And again, before the pandemic, about 85% of all borrowers were underwater on their loans. So before the pandemic, about 85% of all borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. They were losing sleep at night. So it is not unrealistic to expect that 85% of the people are not going to resume paying on their loans. They're done. The lending system is finished. So is that a cost to the government? No, it is not an actual cost, because the government has made its money back. They have made probably every penny in principal they've ever lent out back. Now, are they not going to make the profit that they were hoping for or expecting? No, they won't. And that's perfectly fine. The government was never designed to make a profit on anything. And even Donald Trump agrees. In 2015, right before he announced his run for president, even Donald Trump asked aloud in an interview with The Hill, why is the government profiting on student loans? Of all places the government shouldn't be making a profit on, student loans would be at the top of the list. Why on earth are these loans seen as a profit center for the federal government? Donald Trump, love him or hate him, he was right. He was right then. And I sort of don't think that he's changed his mind much. He didn't say much about student loans in his presidency. He was a disaster on student loans during his presidency. Betsy DeVos was a swamp creature from, central casting. She did a horrible job, but Donald Trump was right. And frankly, I don't think he thought more than about 15 seconds about student loans. But the point remains, guys. So our opposition, the bad guys, people like Mark Goldwine at the Center for Responsible Lending. And, I would even put Mark Kantrowitz in that basket of deplorable people, unfortunately. And shame on Mark Kantrowitz for that. He is fully opposed to this Biden, this nonsensical, not even that important Biden cancellation. We don't really care about this cancellation, really, one way or the other, guys, because $10,000 is not going to help the worst hurt borrowers. It's just not. We have people on our group and they say, you may as well just add $10,000 onto my balance. It's just ridiculous. So we were never a big fan of it. On all of the loans should be canceled. The lending system, well, let me just continue. As I said, previous performance for the federal student loan program is absolutely no indicator of future results. All the stuff I said, most people weren't paying. So the upshot of all of that is that, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at a wholly and catastrophically failed lending program. Student loans are, for all intents and purposes, illegitimate at this point. And if they aren't canceled by executive order, they will be canceled by popular rejection of this lending program. In my humble opinion, it's not only unwise, but it's unpatriotic to ever pay another dollar back on your student loans. And you can agree or disagree, but what I can tell you for sure is this: if you do ever resume paying on your federal student loans, you will be in the tiny minority of everyone, because, as I said, 80%, 85%, who knows? I'd say probably 80% is pretty fair guess. When they turn the loans back on, my guess is maybe 80% of the people will resume paying. Maybe 20% of the people will actually resume paying, but I think that will fall off precipitously in the months following them turning the loans back on. I think within 6 months of them turning the loans back on, it'll be down to 10 or 15%. So Biden's relatively tiny student loan cancellation absolutely will not actually cost the taxpayers anything. It's nothing. This is in stark contrast to, say, the PPP loan program, right? We all know about PPP loans, where the loans, which were never paid on at all, by the way, so nobody ever repaid anything, not even a penny on their PPP loans. $1 trillion was added to the national debt to make those PPP loans. $1 trillion was drawn from the Treasury. Money was printed, bonds were sold. Those were very expensive, very expensive. Whereas canceling student loans, it requires not one thin dime to be drawn from the Treasury, not $1 needs to be printed, and not one penny, not a penny, is added to the national debt. It is very telling that our critics, by and large, fell silent when it came to this massively expensive national debt ballooning giveaway, the PPP loan program. An interesting side note is, where all federal student loans go to financially needy people, 75% of these PPP loans went to people earning $100,000 or more. That's interesting. So, yeah, our opposition, people like Grover Norquist and this guy, Mark, whatever his name is, Mark Goldwine, they traded in their slings and arrows for pom-poms when it came time to talk about the PPP loan program. What's that telling you guys? Call it a class war, call it whatever you want, call it the rich getting richer. You want to talk about wealth inequality, income inequality, wealth inequality. Yeah, look at this. So, as I said, this is a lending program that was originally designed to be free of interest, zero interest. So, I would only say in closing, the critics and defenders of this viciously predatory, massively profitable, and now catastrophically failed loan program largely control the media. It's true, they do. They can and surely will perform all manner of gymnastics to keep it alive, to do everything they can to pressure the Supreme Court to deny this loan cancellation. And honestly, guys, I almost don't care which way this goes, because if you owe $10,000 or less on your student loans, you're not in our group. But politicians from both political parties should inculcate this unavoidable, inescapable fact: the lending system is finished. It's not coming back. The pandemic, for all intents and purposes, was the nail in the coffin. Some politicians should inculcate the reality, which is what I just said. The lending system is finished. It's toast. Rather than buy into this propaganda being pushed by many of their friends, I might add, many of their very well-connected friends. And I go on to give just a few examples. People go, how can the federal program be profitable? How can it be making a profit on defaults? Well, these people that you see here, Robert, Vanjie, other people, when you take bankruptcy rights away from a lending instrument, it's never happened before in this loans, but when you do that, and when you take away statutes of limitation, and then sprinkle in the removal of truth in lending laws, fair debt collection practices, even state usury laws, when you strip a loan of essentially all standard consumer protections, you give the lender a license to steal from the borrower for the rest of the borrower's life. And here we have Christian, good guy, 60-something years old. He borrowed $74,000. He's repaid $175,000 on a $74,000 loan. And they say that he still owes $232,000. Deneen borrowed $12,000. She repaid $10,000, almost all that she borrowed. She owes $104,000. On and on and on. We do not have to put up with this shit, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that what I'm saying to you is clear. And I'm sorry if my voice is sort of animated, but we are a voice in the wilderness, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot count on the mainstream media to report this truth. So I would urge you, and I'm going to post a link to this article in the comments on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, so that you can see this article for yourself. I would just ask you, if you do nothing more to fight with us, and we need you to, because we will be wrecked if you don't help us fight. And that's just the truth. And your student loans are on the line here. If you do nothing more to help us tonight, do at least this. Find this article that we're looking at right now and send this article to both of your senators and your House representative. Do it on Twitter is probably the easiest. That's the least that you can do. Our only hope here are that our members will be ambassadors, and they will help us get the truth out about this massively profitable loan program that could be canceled entirely at very little, if not no, actual cost to the taxpayers. You've got to help us get the word out, guys. If you're not helping us spread this truth around, and it is absolutely true, you can vet everything that we've said here. All of our data is very well sourced. You can get to the bottom of it for yourself. If you don't help us spread this truth, nobody will, and we will be absolutely wrecked. And remember, guys, if our opposition, if the bad guys in Washington, D.C., if they can do to other loans what they did to student loans, and they can if we let them, there's no telling where this might stop. They will make all consumer debt essentially non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. They will do that. They would love to do that. I hear murmurantly about them making medical debt similarly non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. I think that's probably target on their list because the healthcare people are so strong. This is a very, very dark path that we're headed down, guys, and we need you to help us get off this path. And so take nothing for granted. I'm not kidding you. This is the front line in, call it what you want, a class war, financial oppression, economic servitude, or slavery. Call it what you want, but it's a very dark, dark, dark thing. And, this group, I think we've proven our mettle. We are the reason that we had great bankruptcy legislation to fight for. And this whole thing, by the way, comes down to bankruptcy. Whether you would ever or never file for bankruptcy, we've got to get the right of bankruptcy return. We've got to. We're going to see these bullshit, pardon my French, loan cancellations from these gimmicky, stupid, fake, probably designed to fail loan cancellations from Biden or any other president forever, as long as the leverage of bankruptcy remains gone. I would say maybe a similar thing for statutes of limitations. I think that would also be maybe a sufficient thing to get returned to student loans. But as far as the law is concerned, guys, the we have is to get the leverage of bankruptcy returned. When that happens, everything changes. When that happens, government has to behave with at least as much good faith as a credit card company. I don't think credit card companies behave with much good faith, but at least with a credit card company, right? You get behind on your debt, you can say, hey guys, whoa, I can't do this. What are we doing here? Am I going to file for bankruptcy? And they'll go, no, don't file. Okay, we're gonna kill all your, we're gonna erase all of your interest, maybe even knock something off the principal, and just pay us in installments over blah 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 blah. You get a fair workout on your loans. So too is it for the federal student program. We've got to have the power of bankruptcy back on our side. And at this late date of this catastrophically failed, illegitimate lending catastrophe, I think probably with bankruptcy protections returned, certainly the best thing to do, and maybe the most likely thing that will happen, is that they'll cancel the entire lending program. It really is. It's far overlived its usefulness, and at this point, the most simple, easy, expedient, and I think the right thing to do is to cancel all of the loans, throw it out the window, take it to the bath, drown it in the tub, and replace it with a financing scheme that will be far cheaper, so the colleges can't charge so much money, that will be rationally priced, as I said, and something that doesn't ruin people for the crime of going to college. And I haven't even talked about the actual tangible quantitative benefit that the country has realized as a result of having an educated citizenry. That adds just probably trillions upon trillions of dollars in value, whether you can count it or not. But it's a very powerful and valuable thing for a country to have educated citizens. Look at China. Their citizenry is very well educated. Look at India. Look at Russia. Look at college in Mexico, I believe, is free or nearly free. So other countries have figured this out, guys. Take 2 steps back, look at the big picture. We don't have to put up with this bullshit. But at the same, we have got to fight, guys. We've got to fight. The bad people that have, and who knows, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but the very dark, shadowy people and interests who have foisted this loan scam upon us, they have done the same thing in the UK. In 2004, they removed bankruptcy protections from student loans in Britain, in England. And what is going to happen there? Last I checked, I think there was still statute of limitations in England, so that's one thing. But I could see that going on quickly. So the people who pulled this scam in the United States are trying to do the same thing in other countries. So, you got to help us, guys. You got to help us. This is your battle. This is your future. This is your livelihood on the line here. So I'm going to quickly look for your comments now. I think I've gone way too long. I apologize. I don't know why. Before I do these live streams, I'm like, yes, I can convey that information in about 12 minutes. And then it always takes like 37 minutes. I know I talk too much, but I try to be succinct. I try to be to the point. But if nothing else, I'm very thorough. Okay? And believe you me, guys, we've been doing research for 18 years. We've been around for 18 years doing research on this topic. We have broken some of the most important stories in the media on the student loan issue of any. And I could talk for a long time about the stories that we broke at places like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, etc. I wish that would continue, but ladies and gentlemen, the media landscape today is just different. It's just different today. The media has been captured by our adversaries. It just has been. So you have got to be the ambassador, and you've got to help us tell this very simple truth. And I hope that you'll start by sharing this article. The very last thing that I'll say, 2 announcements. We're going to be in Los Angeles on Wednesday at 6:30. If you want to come see us talk, we're screening a film that we're in for the Peacock Network. If you're in Los Angeles, you want to see us, talk to me or talk to Lisa Ansell, Ansell, on our Facebook group. She can get you in for free. It's in, it is at a place that I can't remember the name of. It's just north of the Getty Center. So do that. The last announcement I have, and this is actually quite desperate at the moment, guys. We need donations at this time. We just do. We survive and thrive on very little funding. Personal, largely from distressed student loan borrowers like you. We can do what we do on very little money, guys, but we can't do it on nothing. And like, for example, and thanks, by the way, to everybody who pitched in to our clothes fund. We needed to get an outfit for this thing on Wednesday. Thank you to everybody who pitched in. We also need to raise about $85 to cover us on a motel expense for Tuesday night in Rhinelander, just down the road. So please, guys, donate if you can. Hopefully you can see the link to do that. And let me just kill my little. Yeah, there's the link to donate. Just please help, guys. Don't make me beg. I can't. I suck at fundraising, and I'm no good at it. So if you appreciate what this group has done and all that we're poised to do, I hope that very much that you will pitch in something. $85 is what we need to raise in the very near future. So, so I see we have quite a few comments here tonight. I'm only going to get through maybe a couple of them in the interest of time. I apologize for that. And hey, Laura Gale Sweeney's with us tonight. Hey, Laura. I hope maybe a couple of them in the interest of. Hey, Joanna's with us tonight from Florida. Hey, Joanna. Good evening. Is this the article that you are posting now? Has been posted before? No, this is an article that I just wrote, Joanna. In fact, I posted it on Medium about an hour ago, and I'll be posting it on our Substack channel shortly. And I will post the Medium link in the comments on Facebook right now, and I will post on in the comments under on our Twitter feed, on our Twitter stream right now. Here it comes. Thanks for the question. Laura Gale Sweeney says, great point. I'm not sure which point. Hey, Vanjie, speaking of Vanjie's with us tonight, everyone, just visualize bankruptcy restored. And what option do student loan companies have? They can make a deal or all is discharged with that right restored. Some actually will file if they need it, but they will want to work with the rest of us, right? I don't think very many people will ultimately have to file. I think somebody will, some will, but I think it'll be a very relatively small number. This is the great balancer. This is the great invisible hand of economic free market justice that has been taken away from student loans for 30, 40, arguably 43 years now, since 1977, when they first started monkeying around with the bankruptcy laws for student loans. So Laura says, these loans have ruined a lot of lives and stolen the potential to improve life in the U.S. from borrowers. Laura, I haven't even talked about the incalculable harm and damage that this lending abomination has exacted on this country. This loan scam has taken so much energy, vibrance, growth out of this country, and it has harmed so many real people, their families, completely altered their life's path, and made many of them do things that they never wanted to do. We don't have to take it, guys. As I said, maybe this is the most profound and important thing, and I think the most right thing that I'll say tonight. Nobody, including you, should ever pay another dime back on your federal student loans. We do not have to take this shit, ladies and gentlemen. We're the American people. We've paid our fair share. We do not deserve to be conquered and enslaved by unconstitutional, predatory, and at this point, illegitimate debt under rule of bad law. The founding fathers are on our side. Frankly, I think the founding fathers are looking down and saying, why are our citizens so weak? How did they allow themselves to be cowed, to be to have this loan racket foisted upon them? I don't think they'd say that exactly. They'd probably use more flowery words, but founding fathers are on our side, guys. We do not have to take this shit. And if you have even an ounce of patriotism in your body, you'll bulletproof yourself. You'll stop feeding this beast with your money. You'll help us fight, and we need you to, or we will lose. And you'll maybe hearken the words of John Adams. He said, there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword. The other is by debt. And that is what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. So you better get off your ass. This is a working, fighting group. This is not a group for wallflowers. And you're not better than us, by the way. We have Harvard grads that are getting their knuckles dirty and bloody here on this group. You're not better than us. And you need to help, or we will be buried. And you don't want that. So I don't know what more I can say to encourage you. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not a babysitter. But when, we've got a huge muscle to flex, guys. We've got over 1 million people in our group. I kid you not. You may not see them here tonight on this live stream, but we've got 1.2 million people on our petition. We've got 20,000 people on our Facebook group. We've got a couple 100,000 people across our other platforms, or email, etc. I think we have even like 20 million hits on our Giphy graphics library, for what that's worth. But we have a massive muscle to flex, and that will absolutely happen, but it will only happen when you, sitting there, stop treating me and this group like we're here for your entertainment, and you help us fight. You can go to our website and you can see how to do that. There's very simple things you can do. Chief among them, I would say, our daily actions. But you're smart, you're clever, you're a big boy, you're a big girl, you're an adult. You can think of things. You can be clever and creative. And if you don't help us, then essentially all is lost, universally. So, okay, guys, I'll be back tomorrow night. I hope something about what I said tonight sinks in with you. We need you. But take it to heart and help us fight. And I'll see you tomorrow. Good luck. Godspeed. And God bless everyone.